focus on getting the Black woman's vote, is that the best thing for us as a whole? Because this country is not made up of just Black women. Are you focusing on us because you truly care about us, because you value our opinion, or are we targeted?
Just some of her campaigns and just some of your decisions. Like, yeah, you want a sense of decorum and class, but why do we have Meg the Stallion shaking her ass at your rallies and shit? Like, to me, that's a little distasteful.
All right, we're gonna move forward. And Amanda, we're gonna start with you on this question. There's an anticipation that both parties will heavily pursue the vote of Black women for the remaining of the election cycle. What do you need to see, hear from a candidate for them to receive your vote? And which candidate do you have more faith in providing that vote for you? I'm providing that for you.
Whew, my faith is in God. So
Amen.
I'm gonna just say that no faith in man. For me, honestly, I don't like, and I don't know if you ladies agree or not, but I don't like how you know people go to the Black woman uh, when we're needed. Like, our strength is not exalted in any other time, but when you need us, then you focus on us. Like, I feel like we are powerful. And if you know that, then why wait until certain times to capitalize on that? So it's, for me, I'm more like, if you're gonna try to get my vote, like, I want you to get it legitimately. You know what I mean? Because how can I say this? Just to focus on getting the Black woman's vote, is that the best thing for us as a whole? Because this country is not made up of just Black women. You know what I mean? So are you focusing on us because you truly care about us, because you value our opinion, or are we targeted? And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Like, it's almost like Black women, even in like sales, you know what I mean? Like, in retail, in any type of sales environment, they know we spend a lot of money. So even advertisements and things are targeted, towards us. And I see that a lot. So when they say, "Oh, we're going after the Black woman's vote," what do you mean by going after? You know what I mean? What does that mean? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Are you going after our vote because you know that we are going to vote and it's just a number to you? Are you going after it because you value us, you value our opinions, you value what we bring to the table? So when I hear people say that, it's more like, are you doing that just because we're the majority and you need us? You just need our vote, or are we valuable? It's to me, it's a little offensive, to be honest, for people to be like, "Oh, we're targeting the Black woman." I mean, we're going to vote anyway. We are, but why not target another group? Because if you're being all inclusive and you care about everybody, and your platform is to really secure the futures or whatever of everybody, why are you targeting us? And that's just how I look at it. Like, everybody knows how powerful we are. Everybody knows the strength that lies in a Black woman. So when I heard that, to be honest, because I just had a discussion with somebody about, they were like, they're going after the Black woman's vote. Um, I don't know that I like that. I don't, because what is the reasoning behind that? Is it just a number? Are you using us? And so, that's one of the things I've been trying to. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I really don't know how I feel about that, because at this point it seems a bit offensive to me, because we're targeted for a lot of things. You want to talk about us on this end, we're not good enough over here. But when it's time to make money or it's time to get a vote, let's go get the Black woman. So I'm not real sure that I like that narrative.
Yeah, and just
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I think you said it for the most part. But do you have faith in either candidate that they would get that done for you?
Um, Not at this point. To be honest, not at Not at this point. Just because, like I said, I meant to piggyback off of what she said. I feel like they knew. Like they knew this was going to be. They knew that Biden was not going to be the one running. So when I feel like I've been duped on this end, what's to say I'm not being duped over here? So it just, like I said, it made me just kind of take a few steps back and start digging a little bit deeper.
No doubt. Tamara, question is over to you.
I know he's gonna pick me next, man. Felt it in my spirit. Oh Lord. What do I need to see and hear? I don't know. I just need to hear some truth, I think. I need some authenticity up in these parts. It's not about necessarily receiving my vote, but I do want to receive my vote. It's not about necessarily being a Black woman, like Amanda was saying. Like, we're not prey, and it just seems like we're prey and you're just using us. Yeah.
Right.
It's really, it's about classes. You got the lower class, you got the middle class, and you got the upper class. Okay. And I think that's what needs to be targeted, because it's just a group of us as a whole more than just our ethnicity or whatever. There's power in numbers, and there's just not simply enough Black women, in my opinion, to be really we're just very influential, which is why I think they're targeting us.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. But I know, and this is why I'm kind of struggling with Kamala. Now, based on like what Joy is saying, her credentials, she's definitely qualified. I'm not going to take that from her. But she's playing into the act, and that's where it comes into character and your integrity. And that's where I'm torn. And like, just some of her campaigns and just some of your decisions, like, yeah, you want a sense of decorum and class, but why do we have Meg Thee Stallion shaking her ass at your rallies and shit? Like, to me, that's a little distasteful. I don't want that representation to be tagged on to the Black woman that's supposed to be running our country. We could have chose anybody. I mean,
I thought it was very insulting that you reduced us down to Meg. And I'm not slamming Meg, but as a performer and entertainer, she does her thing. But
it's appropriate for that event,
right? It's like, this is what you reduced us down to. Like, that part is starting to come out. That's why I was like, observe. We just sit back and look and see. This is what you reduced Black folks down to. Really, I did not like that at all. So I agree.
Even it was one campaign video. This is how you know they're going after just the Black vote. I don't know if it's necessarily Black women, but just the Black vote. But just, Kamala, you don't say in the streets. There's just certain slang that you're using in some of your campaigns that integrity is really questioning the integrity. But it's just qualification wise, she's qualified. But to have a good, I feel like, candidate, not only do you need to be qualified, but you need to have the character and the to back up, to make sure that you're making sound and logical decisions. And that's just my concern. Now, as far as which candidate do I have more faith in, it would most definitely be Kamala, because if I'm just going based off of her credentials and education, yes. If I'm just looking at a resume based on people's experiences between the two candidates, she would definitely I would have more faith in that. But that's just only going off of her credentials, period. But that's where I stand.
Awesome. Gotcha. Joy.
No, I love this discourse that we're having. I think I haven't seen a lot of it. But I would also say I try to stay away. Election year political discussion is not my cup of tea, just because people get very passionate. I get very passionate about this, but just with family. I will not go beyond that, because people just get in their feelings, and I'm going, look, okay, listen, this is time to be grown up.
Right.
That's about what affects us, and stop getting your feelings about this. And so I really appreciate hearing your take, all your takes on this. And I'll start with the Meg Thee Stallion one. If I tell you, it took me a while to even know who she was, because there's some things I will not affect my eyes with, like, it's rubbish. But I also understand, I think, Sharetta, I think you're the one that talked about the generations, right? And I'm an 80s baby, so I know there's a big chasm. So I've not followed the musicians, the stars of the day, but I know when I was young, we followed all those people and they were like, ooh, right? So I kind of understand why they will put somebody like that. For us, older folks, like, really? I mean, I saw clips of that just like, I didn't even want to read, know why. It was just, I just like, bye, right? For the younger folks, yay, she knows us, really, because she grew up Meg on stage, or but Beyonce, right? So it doesn't make sense at all that she would do that. But is she in charge of all those things? Somebody told her, this will be great. We'll bring the young 21-year-olds to the table, right?
Yeah,
so
they
for
came
me,
and enjoyed the concert and then
sorry?
left. They came and enjoyed the concert and then left.
And that was it, because it was part of what it is I don't know who said it was just they were just putting this on, and that's really what politics is, right? Yeah. From the get-go, historically, it's about who put on the best show.
And this is why I don't like it, Joy.
Sorry?
This is why I don't like it, Joy.
Well, I know, but what I'm trying to say, even with different regions of the world and different decades, if you look at it, it's always been about the show, because it's about who you can convince the most with fluff, right? Mm-hmm. And so it isn't good. And people have tried with policy to try and change this. And you find that when you've got something so deeply rooted, it's hard. And which is why we go to your local level, go to your state level, because that's what affects you the most. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to make notes as you all were talking. And this goes back to the record, like I was saying, for me, right? The staging, the music they use. I don't watch any political ads because they're just fluff. They just spend all this ridiculous amount of money, which is useless to me. I hate the people that bombard my phone with this ads because it's annoying, right? But it's all this pizzazz, right? So that you just hear what you hear. You don't even know if it's AI. You don't even know if that's the truth. They splice it together, right? So I go back to the record. I go back to the Government Accountability Office. It's kind of like our accounting, the federal government accountant, right? I go back to where I know it's not Democrat, independent. It's just their whole aim is to audit the government and to tell you where you were wrong or right. Doesn't matter the administration. I go back to sources like that, to institutes like that, and I get information. Now, according to your question about Black women, okay, and in the Black community, I look at it like, what, I think it was Amanda who said, what does that even mean as Black women? We mentioned Black women. And to your point, Tamara, it's because of the influence we have. We lead our homes. We're the ones hustling and doing. I'm not saying the Black men don't now. I'm just saying. but this is why they talk about Black folk. But one thing I'm very careful about, and why I don't listen to all the political pundits, I call them, not scientists, because what they do is just opinions, which everybody has one, right? One thing that when I look at them talk, I say, let's get to the facts, okay? When you talk about Black women, we're talking about Black communities. We're mothers, we're sisters, we're aunties, we're friends, right? And what does that mean? And so if you look, I use the example of when we fill out a form and they talk about, are you Black or white? Are you Hispanic or whatever? This is so endemic in our entire system. Europeans don't have this. And sometimes they're like, why do you guys always have to mention whether you're Black or white or green? Like, they don't get it. In them. And so when we get to the politics, they do the same thing with us, because it is going to tick some people off. It's going to make some people happy, right? And so for me, I don't listen to those classifications, because these people are paid to sit on TV and do this all the time. So why do they always keep emphasizing? Because they want to rile us up. They want the Black women to come out, oh, now you want us, right? Now, and then when we do that, they go, typical Black woman. Right? Exactly. So you can't win. Exactly. You can't. So I don't listen to what they call us, how they frame it. I go, let's go to the facts. And for me personally, what I've read so far and followed the administrations is, when we look at the word that nobody likes to, that doesn't have a good connotation now, DEI, right? What is the concept of DEI? Don't listen to what they're saying. Why did we need it? Same way affirmative action became a bad word, and now it's been struck down, right? To me, those are things that were fought for, people shed their blood for, because they said you cannot recoup 400 years of putting people down and expect them to be at the same level and to have success in life. So we have
Joy, on that point, can I ask you a quick question on that?
Sure.
Because of these affirmative actions, and we want to try to make sure we have diversity. Yeah. How long do we feel these programs need to be in place? Like, when is this going to be a forever thing, or do you think we'll get to a point in our country where we don't need that anymore?
Well, they already told us we don't need it now. So that's kind of a foregone issue. But it wasn't about timing, it was about the impact, right? It's impact. If we still see today that the people who still don't get promoted and we have no just reason for it, right? Have we really arrived? When we count those people,
that's what I'm saying. How do you count that when
well,
we're
because they have
going to have those problems, though, right?
Right, but we just even when we talk about like the disparity in income, right, for men and women, be able to check statistics and say, wait, Joe has this job, Mary has this job, Mary even has more qualification. How did Joe get promoted, get $20,000 bump? Mary got $5,000 for the same job. So I'm not saying it's a perfect formula, but the whole purpose of DEI is once we institute these things and we have people who are already many times overqualified, right? And we give them, okay, yes, you take that office, not because you're Black, not because you're Latino. No, it's because you've been sitting all this while and other people have been going, and it makes no sense. They don't show us why. So if we help you get into that office and you kill it, see, we were right. You don't kill it, come back down here, you go up. Right. So it's there's an adequate measure. It's not perfect science, but the whole purpose is not a time frame. It's about, let's see, we're making some movements. Now, an example I'll give you all is with VCs, right? A lot of Black women businesses, a lot of minority businesses really gain from catering to particular communities, right? You have young boys or young girls that, hey, if not for this money, either from the federal government or from foundations, they couldn't have access to the proper education, tutoring, and everything they needed, right? Some of them end up going to Ivy League schools, right? Which they would never have even been considered, because who has that money to pay for any of that, right? And then when you put them on that, then they get to go to the law firm that's top tier. Then they get to work at Goldman Sachs, right? But all started because you put them in the pipeline. That's really all it is. We're not saying once they're in there, give them a free pass. We're saying open the door, please. When they walk in, let's see who's better or who does great job. That's all what we are. But what has happened now is that now you see please don't take offense if you're conservative. I'm just saying based on the people that come out and what they say. They stand for Christian conservatives and nationalists. And they say, so we believe you don't need any of the things. And I'm going, but I thought we're all equal in the eyes of God. So how do you help me come close if you don't put any systems and any policies that will help me come close? Because when it was back in slavery time and Jim Crow time, we were separate, but absolutely not equal. Right? We had to do things to get us closer to equal. So nobody's saying discriminate or have a reverse racism, but I'm saying when I look at policies that people fought hard for, voting rights and all of that, it's so that we can say, let's get us a bit closer. We're not saying we're going to sit there and not do anything, because honestly, most of the time we are very overqualified. Right? We work harder, we work the most, right? We're just saying, give us the opportunity. So when people start saying, oh, that's reverse racism, oh, we shouldn't shut some people out. No, we're really saying, like your children, right? We talk about when you have autism, right? We're not going to say, well, we don't care you have that. Just sit in class, God bless you like that and bring you to the world. You do what you can. Come on now. We're society and we're each one help one, right? So we're going to create a space for you. We're going to say, how do we help you? Because we know he's smart. We know he has what it takes. He just learns differently. These are the kind of programs when we talk about Latino communities and Black communities that we need to put in place to help them get closer, because the race already started a long time ago and some people are already close to the finish line. So how do we help you get better? So for me, I look at student loans, I look at healthcare, I look at how I think I remember their name. There was a particular VC where they fund Black businesses, especially Black women who want to start businesses and help them and invest in them. They can't do it anymore because they got sued and got shut down. What was the premise? We're Christian conservatives. We don't believe in this. Are you serious? Which Christian principle is this? Right? So when I look at that, that's how I compare and contrast, right? These things that we're fought for, or the fact that anti-lynching law didn't get passed until 2022. Why? Explain that to me. Right? Oh, we don't think you should punish somebody if they did it. How do you know that we're going to lynch the person? Should we wait till the person is lynched? Right? So certain things to me are so common sense that when I look at both sides, it's easier to compare now So somebody else, it might not be that clear. I'm not trying to insult, but I picked this next to each other. The Black woman, when you don't have that funding to start your business that you used to have, because unfortunately they're scared of being sued now. The young boy and young girl who could have gone to Harvard in 3 years, but sorry, we can't select because you're Black or Latino anymore. These are impact that are going to be reverberating the next 2 to 3 years amongst our community, and it's going to set us back. So that for me as a Black woman, these are things that matter. And I've seen it happen based on the Bible, based on Christianity, based on Christian national.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely wrong. And I will not stand with that. So.
Sharita.
Sorry about that. I saw I was muted. Before I answer, I just want to respond to that. That was some awesome exchange there, by the way, with that. But one of the things that I think when it comes to these programs, even though I think, some of them are like, they're well intended, but they always seem to get usurped and end up benefiting other races and ethnicities and what have you, besides the group that it was originally intended to benefit. We have seen this play out time and time again. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Just look around you and observe what position are Black people still in today. We still on the bottom rung of the ladder. So that we can, everybody, I know that like in this bipartisan world, it's easy to be like, oh, this, Democrats did this, Republicans are responsible, and they want to, and white Christian, nationals want to do this and that. I mean, it's easy to point the fingers, and I think it gets usurped. We need to, at a minimum, create our own space. And really, if we want to thrive as a people, working together cooperatively and not having a lot of governments interfere with certain things. We've done this before. If people remember the history, the Black Wall Streets, all the other things, like we done this. We know where our power lies, as all of you ladies have said. But putting too much power in the hands of this government, they get to dictate and control. They got the puppet strings and whatnot, and can, so, and then of course they turn everything loose to society to bicker and fight. And race, by the way, is another construct in and of itself that we don't have time, I know, to go into on this one, but it's a lot underneath that. But anyway, the question, I think it was the anticipation of both parties. Well, yeah. Again, I'm just going to just reiterate, for the record, y'all know I don't have a political science background of any kind. So I speak just purely on what I discovered through observation and the info that I have, and the way I see it and have been seeing it. And, please correct me if you see it another way, but the Democrats are going to keep dimming. And by that, I mean, like the pandering, the line, just vote for me and we'll talk about it later after I get in office. Ain't that exactly what Biden and Kamala did in 2020 when Black folks put them on the hot seat, especially when the reparations discussion was heating up? So, and I'm not saying I'm married to any of those things or topics. I'm just, again, observations. And I'm sorry if I keep pounding on the Democrats. Sorry, but not sorry. The reason I stand on this is because most of us don't even know how our family fell into the Democratic web, right? In the first place. And I would like to know how many of us here right now on this panel are aware of the formation of the political parties and the power and money behind them. You know what I mean? So when I looked into the history of that and what I consider to be objective documentaries, I was floored. I couldn't believe it. So no, for me, which candidate do I have more faith in? I mean, no, if somebody held a gun to my head and said, you gotta choose one or the other, even though
Teresa, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
If somebody was like, you got to choose right now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to probably side with the conservative and Republican aspect.
Okay.
And that's because of what I know from this whole Democratic operation that has been installed. And I'm not saying Republicans are any better. Like what we're seeing play out, there's still some mess on that end too.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, it's just, I don't like the scheme of things and what's playing out. And that's because the Democrats have taught us how to be dependent versus, at one point, Black folks in this country were Republicans.
Yeah.
They were
conservative.
They were about that money and they stood on business. The Democratic infiltration and occupation took place to turn us into dependence. This whole, kind of socialist type of thing. That was the worst thing, in my opinion, that could have ever happened to us.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave that right there.
If I may, Mel, thank you for that, Shrita. I had a question for you, but also a couple of comments in the history, right? And certain groups of people following one party versus the other. Same way, days change, years change, ideals change, right?
Yes.
And this is why I keep telling people, go back to, we've had the opportunity to have both sides have at least one administration. So go back to the records of each administration, because that tells you what you need to know, right? And read the objective records and how it impacts, what impacts yourself, your community. Different political systems, like I said before, we have those ideologies embedded in different areas. When I tell people, do you know Medicaid, Medicare is socialism? They're like, no, it's not. It's helping the elderly. I'm like, it is. Because people have one definition of a political ideology, and that's what they stick to. But if you read the details of what they are, you find out that our democracy has a bit like communism in it, has socialism, and has a bit of the Marxist. It's all because there's no one size fits all. So at different aspects, we have to integrate something, tweak it a little bit to fit. That all works. But to your point, the question I wanted to ask you, and why I said this is very sad when we come to that affirmative action bit, is, and the effect of you were saying about us helping ourselves. This is why that part hit me really hard, because we cannot help ourselves anymore. We will try, but we are going to get sued. This is what I mean. The Black Wall Street and everything, we focused on our communities and we said we're doing this but if you do that today, they're going to say, no, your criteria is racist. This is part of when you read the order and stuff, is that for me, it was such a overbroad, right? The way the court ruled. And we know the court did what they did.
I thought it was, you can get into trouble if you are unable to prove disadvantage. You see what I mean? If you're able to put forth stats and the data to back why you need to do what you're doing.
Even if you did that, they're saying if you did that, you couldn't open the door to just a disadvantage, is what they're saying. Yeah. So this is the tough part that I'm telling people. It really hit us hard as a community, because you can prove all of that and say they're disadvantaged. Like, yeah, but at least you still open. You know what you were saying about opening it up to more than those who need it? What this has done is said, now you have to open it to Latinos, you have to open it up this, but before we could have the little funds we have and say, you're a Black woman starting a business, I've got 100 mil, I'm going to split it and give you 5 mil to invest, and I'm going to follow you the 5 years and keep investing. You can't even do that anymore, because your criteria was this community and this group of Black women. So you've proved that they're disadvantaged. You have statistics for decades, but they're like, nope, you have to choose every woman who wants it. And even if a man wants it, you have to open it up. Well, how much do we have to spread around?
Well, what I was meant by that is not so much to take it on a scale such as the national scale and state level. I'm saying there are things we could do right now in our own communities on a smaller, family. I don't necessarily mean like, oh, we have to run to the big almighty government and then they're going to be checking everything and ticking and tying and seeing who's been naughty or nice, on everything. I understand we still fall under statutes and codes and regulations if we're going to do business. But I see a lot of times, time and time again, when families and smaller communities come together and really work to build and repair their personal finances and their situation, I see then they don't need all these other programs and different things.
But the problem then becomes if, for example, all four of us came together, right? And we said, we've seen the need here. We want to do this. We write up sort of our guide, right, on why we're doing this, who we're doing this for as a community. We know there's any way to do that. The problem with this ruling, and what happens then is tomorrow, Mel is a young Latino man and Mel goes, oh, that's not fair. I need to do this. I need this for my community. Why does it have to be for your community? Now, you're not government. You're not this. You're private. You can even be nonprofit, right? The problem now is
infiltration.
Once he challenges us, now we have to go plead our case. And we most, especially with the ruling, are going to lose. And now we have to also help Mel and his community. See what I mean? It's so broad that they made it too broad that now even a lot of people that could do like four of us coming together, now we're scared of repercussions, right? To even help our little communities. And that's the part that I say people, especially on the local level, need to fight. Maybe the state can pass things to help out, but it's just so hard when people think it's just at the top level and businesses, but nonprofits are shutting down now because we're so focused on community and little groups, and they can't do it anymore because lawyers are telling them you're opening yourself to liability. So it might not be what they intended, but that's the effect now that's cascading down to little groups, little communities that are helping very, very marginalized communities all over the country.
And to that, do you think that, and I'm not trying to just kind of single out, specific, but when Asians come over, they do this all the time. When the Middle Easterns come over here,
right,
they do this all the time. And
could you qualify what you mean by this?
No, they're like actually looking out for their core communities, their ethnic. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. I want to silence an alarm. They look out for one another. And if they see you trying to come in there, here I come, oh, I want a little bit. What y'all doing over here?
Right.
Can I get some help too? We will be blocked so fast.
Yes, they do.
The first thing is we don't even know. We don't even have access.
No, to keep
what they're doing.
Bottom of the totem pole. So there's more than meets the eye here. There are people who are doing this very thing, and they are getting away.
And they're surviving.
And that's a big part, right? That's a big part because yes, will they get in trouble if somebody flags it? Yes, but we all know
who's flagging it.
Who gets
I don't see that.
More. Sorry,
I don't see who's flagging them.
No, but I'm saying now that we have this, somebody can have a right to do that, is what I'm saying. They can easily do that, but based on our lived experiences, who would get flagged?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. The whole psychology, this is why I say we have these things in terms of law, right? In the statutes that say you have to abide by this, you can't do this, you can't do that. But still, culturally, people still know what buttons and whose buttons they can push and they can get away with and not. And then 9 times out of 10, it is always us that gets targeted because we know anything we touch, if they know anything we touch will turn to gold. And they're like, oh, no, we need a piece of that. And so I do get that, but we don't have to be so overt with our intentions. We can move in silence. There's been so many.
Exactly.
I need people to help us do that because I've read of so many.
There are groups that like the whole grouping and community gifting and things like that. And those, I mean, sourcing and share. What is it? Crowd sharing and funding and things within these smaller communities. See, these are the things that I have actually witnessed and observed, and I've seen lives changed from it. But our folks don't know much about it, or whenever it happens, there's a certain human element that comes in, and it's called greed or jealousy or envy or whatever. You can name all the 7 deadly sins you want. Just pick one. They come into play, and this is why I said there's a lot of deprogramming that we have to undergo here before we can even get to that place. Because there are people, there are groups, there are cultures and ethnic groups right now that they are doing their thing and they are moving.
Yes, they are.
And ain't nobody raising up, fussing and carrying on about what they got going to help their communities.
See, and that's, I think, what I've learned from what you said. There are two things, and I really appreciate you like expatiating on that, because my first bit is, this is why to me these rulings were very hard for our community, because we get targeted more than those groups.
Yeah, we do.
So these kind of overarching coverage was good for us, right? And so taking that coverage out, we are the ones that lose, right? Even though they call other groups, we're the ones that lose. But also what I'm hearing from you is, like you're saying about the covert working in silence, then we need more people to get into policies that can talk to them, especially at the local level, to pass things to help us be able to operate. Because I kid you not, once people start suing in district court doing this, a lot of people are like, nope, can't call me, can't join that. Right? Because
we got to learn. That's why I said we do have to learn the proper skills to, and not be. And as Black people, we are proud people. We like to talk and say what we doing. And, oh, I got this. And,
show off. We got to show off.
You know, if you've ever read it, you got to move. You got to learn to move in silence and not broadcast everything, but just due to our history and our past. When we finally get to a certain place and level, we gotta shout it out at the top of the, you know, the hills and the mountains.
And we did this. I know.
That's what Amanda, you had something to say. Go ahead.
No, I see that. Like, I was piggybacking off of what she said. We have to learn to move discreetly. You know, my dad has an Indian friend, and I'm not. I don't know his exact nationality, but he was speaking to my father on how they help each other, and they don't necessarily like each other. You know, it's a set.
They on code.
Right. They follow a code. And you see that. I live in Louisiana, where the Hispanic community is like, from 5 years ago when I first got here, because I'm originally from Mississippi, I lived in Georgia for 15 years. From when I first got here, the growth in the Hispanic community has just plummeted. They own businesses. I live in a nice neighborhood. They own a lot of the houses. They own a lot of the business. They have infiltrated, but you didn't hear anything about it. Nobody's saying anything. You know, for us, I feel like, just like what she said, first of all, we got to shout it to the rooftop. And then we are in a culture, whether we want to admit it or not, I don't want my penny to be shinier than your penny. It's still a penny. You know, that's where we are mentally, and other cultures are just not like that. They have learned to push that aside for the greater good of the people. And that's what we need to learn to do.
We're crab in a barrel type
stuff. We got to operate under the radar. You know what I mean? Like, if I have a business owner over here and I know what it takes to elevate, or what resources, what funding, what loans, whatever it may be, other cultures seek out other people in their culture. They don't wait for people to come to them. They seek out other people to invest in, if it's just intellectual property.
They don't even have to like each other. They
don't even have to like each other at all.
You have it, and we got to be on code to keep everything moving.
It's an expectation in their culture. Like, they're looked upon like unfavorably if they're just sitting over there not helping anybody. For Black people, it's not like that. It's like we come up and it's like, well, I came up and, you know, look at you. You have to get it how you live. And we'll never grow like that. We never will. We have to be able to, like you said, we got to operate under the radar. They don't need to know everything we're doing. Like, even in our family, sometimes people don't need to know everything that you're doing. They don't, because we don't know everything that they're doing. Like I said, I don't know what these Hispanics are doing around me. All I know is this one just bought a $500,000 house.
They own the block now.
Like this one, he was driving a truck and now he has a Maserati. And these buildings were empty and now they're all owned by Hispanics. They're doing something, and they're not telling us everything that they're doing. We need to learn how to operate like that. I know a lot of successful Black people, a lot of them, but I don't know anybody that they've helped to become successful like them.
Now that's a word.
Can I interject? Can I interject to that point? Because I was in real estate. I had tenants and I'm in Metro Atlanta, and I had tenants, right? And I had a couple of them. They were Mexican and they were Hispanic. And let me tell you what I watched. They opened my eyes. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, right, when I witnessed this. Because when you said we got to learn that, I already saw how they move. And a lot of times, and yes, it did pose some problems and some issues, but I had a lot of respect for them, because when I saw what they were doing and how they were pulling together, and we all complain and look at them at first and be like, oh, look how they all crunched up in the house,
No, I don't.
10 to 5 families in a 3-bedroom. They will do whatever they have to do to make it work. And then when they get over here, they work. You see everybody talking about all of the jobs and this and that. They come over here, they've proven their work ethic. Then they make their money. Somebody goes and buys the land. They build their house.
Mm-hmm.
The other 3 families are left at the house, the other one, and whatever. And then boom, they all work for each other. And the next thing you know, bam, the next one has come up. See,
but
this is
we
what
can't,
go ahead.
we can't do that as Black people. I had that discussion with somebody, because you do see a lot of that. It'll be 15 of them in the house. Well, so first of all, for Black people, somebody got to be the head of household. Like that's gonna be a struggle. Like, who's in charge? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And not only, and let's keep it real, not only can't put a bunch of families in a house. Just think about 5 or 6 Black couples in a house. She looking at my man. Is she sleeping with my husband? Is she?
Yes, Lord. Unnecessary drama.
Yeah, we got a lot of programming.
We can't, exactly. We can't get outside of that to focus on we can never live together.
So then if I'm listening to you all, which makes me sad, and listen, this happens with African communities too. The shining, the wanting to be on top. Yes, it's endemic in Black. You ask a Caribbean friend of mine, they'll tell you the same thing. Something with us Black people, we excel, we do this, but this part has been something. Here in Minnesota, we have the Hmong people who do the same thing you were just talking about, Shreda. And they would save and save and save and pay cash for that house. And then like, okay, now you take on the new people that just moved here so that they can work and save. And they pay the car cash, house cash. They don't know that. Like it's amazing. You see that. And so there's so many cultures. So to me, the underlying issue with us Black people, why we can't trust each other, only God knows. But I feel trust is the biggest thing, and the culture. And I don't know. I think it's the culture. I was telling Mel, I don't know if it was you saying the other day, it's like, where are the aunties and the uncles? Where are the elders? And I feel like we've lost that, which is why I can't watch all these entertainers today, because nobody knows how to talk, right? And I say but then I look at TV and I look at politicians. I look like so-called professors, and everybody just talks over each other and yells at each other. And I'm like, never mind. Right? So as educated as we are, as exposed as we are, all of that, what is our culture? I watch some of these clips, maybe it's BT or whatever, like, oh, for the culture. I'm like, please tell me what the culture looks like now, because I have no clue. So how do we go back? I guess if any of you have any insight, I don't. How do we go back, almost like starting over? How do we build? Because these people, like you said, they might not like each other, but this culture is something they do. It's not a choice. They have to do it. This is how we build community. This is how we help each other not get in debt. But for Black folks, how do we go back where there is, like the Black Wall Street era, like you're saying, there were elders, there were people who people listened to. This is how it worked, right?
Yeah,
and they listened to them, it worked,
before,
and they kept doing. But I don't have any aunties or uncles that talk wisdom anymore that I can respect, and everybody honored them.
I think everybody
everywhere. From
everybody's about self.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tamara.
No, I was just saying everybody's about self now.
So, but is there any hope, I guess, is what I'm asking you, ladies. And why do we have Black churches everywhere and nobody listens and nobody is filled with wisdom to advise?
But who's predominantly in Black church? I think part of the problem is men and women are not coming together. We're so divided in the Black community when it comes to men and women. Go to a church, you're going to find more Black women than you find Black men in those churches. That's not even
deprogramming, deprogramming, and then reprogramming. And the deprogramming part is just, that's like performing major surgery. I mean, you got to put somebody under anesthesia for 2 hours and just that's major surgery. I don't have really the answer for, but I do at a high level. I can see it's a programming issue, because once I have worked in a small group before where we were literally like, we read a lot of books that a lot of these leaders and strategizers read. You gotta uncover so much stuff so that you can get to the meat of what
Black
you
folks
have
don't want to read though.
And they don't. That is a problem. You're right, and it's sad. We don't even want to. People don't want to do self-exploration. They don't even want to do self-help. But that's what it's going to take. And if you find a small group of strong, like-minded people that get it, you can't just link up with everybody. Like, I have family right now that I'll be like, no, I'm not calling you to come be a part of this right now. So we have to, what's the word? Discretion. We have to use discretion to be very discretionary.
And discernment.
And discernment. That's it. We need discernment. And that takes time. But we live in a microwave society, so there we are. We can go down this rabbit hole.
But I wish, because for me, even listening to all three of you, we need
this will be the last word on this, Joy.
Sorry.
We'll let you have the last word.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wish if all three of us, as we go back to our, families and spaces, I hope that this discourse continues, because ultimately what I'm hearing, or unless you're hearing different, is we all agree that we need to do this for ourselves. And to do this for ourselves, we have to have a level of trust. And from my perspective, we need to have the elders who have lived through some things, who their parents talk to them. And we need to have a part where we, our age, those younger than us, respect these elders and their wisdom, and then follow through. And then we imbibe the same in the younger generation. But if we can't talk to each other, if nobody respects anybody, how can we do that? Because we don't have to like each other, right? But if we believe in the same principles and respecting elders and taking from their wisdom and what they've been through and guiding us, then we can walk in silence, like you're saying, right? And we can accomplish those things. But I don't know how. And the deprogramming, you say, maybe we need to parse that out a little bit more and start, trying with discretion and discernment to start doing that a little bit, little by little, in our local communities. Because if not, unfortunately, I feel like we're going to come back years from now and we're still going to be saying the same thing.
Very spirited conversation, ladies. I love it. So powerful. Love that so much. And it's hard for me to sit here and not respond. But we'll move on. Just the moderator today.
Let's go.